This video is brought to you by OpenVPP and Ionna. OpenVPP, a global virtual power plant for electric vehicles. See vehicles charging across the world and zoom in to see real-time charging status in what aims to be the world's largest vehicle virtual power plant. OpenVPP allows you to track charging history, energy usage, and daily trips, comparing your usage versus others, day to day and month to month. With OpenVPP, we're working together to showcase the potential of EV charging to electric grid operators. There may even be future coordinated EV charging rewards coming soon. So sign up today at world.openvpp.energy. It's completely free to join and takes under 60 seconds. And Ionna, the EV charging network brought to you by the world's leading automakers. Ionna is raising the bar on what it means to charge. We're talking a 400 kilowatt minimum nationwide network built with the customer in mind. Fast, reliable, affordable, every single time.
The Tesla Model X has been on sale for almost 10 years, and this is actually the newest generation. You wouldn't know it because it looks pretty much the same as when it launched, and that's not great. I think Tesla needs to actually do a proper refresh of the Tesla Model X. And I feel even more strongly about that after living with their newest generation, nicknamed the Palladium 3, the P3 generation, for the last 6,000 miles in a couple months. We really have done everything with this car. We've done all of the testing, all of the road tripping, and all of the daily driving. So I can confidently say it's the worst Tesla. That's not to say it's a bad car though. In this review, I'm going to wrap up everything we've done with it and tell you everything that we love and hate about it across the team. It's just me today though, so I'll go as quick as I can for Kyle's speed. And we'll wrap up our time with the 2025 Tesla Model X all-wheel drive. Guys, check this out. This is my literal garage charging situation. I use an EV Dance mobile EVSE. It's a 40 amp unit, currently outputting 29 amps because that's all the car is requesting that I have it plugged into. I love this unit because I get direct temperature monitoring and it has a meter in there to tell me how much energy is delivered from here into the car. There's a problem though. It's a long cable. I really love it. I use the NAX version all the time, but you can see the Leaf Limo is just such an amazing piece of machinery. It's so long, it's so huge, the cable can't reach past it. So I'm using the EV Dance extension cable, which is just an awesome unit. I've shown you this cable in so many videos, and you can see it's 40 feet of charging extension. So I can bring it all the way out here and have ultimate flexibility to charge my e-Golf in this case. Now, if I was doing a real sponsored post, I'd make bring out a brand new cable like that one right there and show you something nice and shiny. But what I really wanted to show you was that I use this cable, we run it over, we abuse it, and it still works. This thing has been through hell and back, and it has survived the test of time. I'm using the EV Dance adapter right here from NAX to J1772. Again, the full solution. Two use cases why you need this. One, garages. If you park 2 to 3 cars deep like we have right here, well, you need the extension cable so you don't have to shuffle cars around all the time. Other use case, you're on a road trip, you go to a hotel, ICE car blocking the charging station, so annoying. Plug this thing in, you can park anywhere in the parking lot and still get your EV to charge. It has saved my butt so many times. So a huge thanks to EV Dance for sponsoring this video, not only with the amazing 40 amp EVSE, absolutely love that, super high power, and just the whole system between that EVSE, these extension cables, and that adapter. EV Dance has got it for you. All you need to do is visit the link in the description below, and a huge shout out to those guys for supporting Out of Spec. So the Tesla Model X, well, this thing has been around for a while now, and actually my best friend Ben, who's been featured in some of the videos over the years, he actually is the one who came up with the name Out of Spec. He bought a very early Tesla Model X. I think it was VIN 100 or earlier. And yeah, somewhere around there. And it was a disaster. I remember we were in the delivery center taking delivery of his car, and the Falcon Wing door that pops up crashed into the rear quarter panel and came out of alignment, and it was just not put together very well. And I think everyone can admit, okay, Model X doors, some other problems, they weren't built well, they weren't really that well screwed together. And I had a lot of experience with early Model X's thinking, oh my goodness, that is just not it. Tesla has done a great job to solidify the package in the sense where The doors never gave us a lick of trouble in terms of functionality. They are slow, but we'll talk about that. And everything about, sort of the Model X feels much more mature. And it should. We're, 9 years after the launch of this product? And Tesla, on the surface of it, hasn't changed much. But over the years, they've taken weight out of the vehicle, they've added battery capacity, they've added performance in terms of the acceleration, and also just charging performance has gotten better as well. So things have improved massively. And here with the latest 3rd generation of the Palladium cars, this was, launching the new color is really the only visual difference in the wheel design. There's some suspension changes under the hood and some other little things that have made this generation car just a bit more dialed in. And it is just a bit more dialed in than before. But the Model X is no longer the only 3-row electric SUV on the market. It's going up against Lucid Gravity, Rivian R1S, EX90, Vistiq, Escalade, IC. Depending on the size, you want to go up or down there. ID Buzz, which is gone for 1 model year, but coming back. Ioniq 9, EV9, and the list goes on. There are so many electric 3-row SUVs on the market, and that's actually why I got this car in, and a huge shout out to Tesla for sending it to us. We wanted to do a electric car road trip race, and if you head to our Out of Spec motoring channel, we have the Eastern Edge road trip race series that is in process of being debuted to you guys. And this was the car that Tesla sent for us to race in the Eastern Edge. And I'm not here to give away any results, but on paper, it didn't seem all that great for the Model X. The range is 358 miles in the EPA cycle, which is kind of low to mid pack. I mean, a lot of these big 3 rows have 400 plus miles of range now. And, its charging performance is only 250 kilowatts. Escalade 370, Lucid Gravity 400, Ioniq 9 actually less than this car. It's kind of mid-pack in charging, but it has a very narrow window at which it can charge at full power. However, without giving away any results, this did better than expected because Tesla has made a fully integrated package. The software, the supercharger network, the phone app, the vertical integration of the entire experience is carrying all the weight to make the Model X still relevant given the competition today. And if other automakers could do as good of a job as Tesla as vertical integration, this car would make 0 sense and no one would buy it. And it actually isn't selling that well. I don't see new Model X's out there. However, the attraction to this car is not the shape, it's not the size, it's not really anything other than the Tesla ecosystem, and it gives you the most family-friendly interior that Tesla offers, but it's still not family-friendly enough, in my opinion. So let me tell you a little bit more about our testing data to wrap up, all the numbers we got on this car, and then I'll show you around it, and at the end, I'm gonna tell you how unreliable it's been, because that's the real head scratcher here. So this is the hallmark of the Model X, at least when it launched, the doors. And you know what? I'm happy to report we did not have a single issue with the doors. Some updates Tesla's done, by the way, is they removed, I think, all the ultrasonic sensors to this, except for the one underneath and maybe except for just one above. And they now use the cameras to control front door opening, width, and things like that. And that all seems to work pretty well. You're always fighting with the doors if you're in a rush, though. If you try to really, grab the door and open it and just get in and get moving, the electric motors are always pushing against you. And that is why I hate powered doors in cars, because when you get to a charging stop and you're in the groove, you just want to get out the car, plug it in, and this thing's always slowing you down. And you'll see that in the Eastern Edge. The guys were complaining about that. In reality, if you have a family, if you're just cruising, you've got car seats in the back, this is the easiest access for car seats. And the 6-seat configuration is nice in the case where you can keep your car seat locked in. You never have to take it out because the backrest doesn't fold when you get access into the 3rd row, which is reasonably spaced and not that huge, but it's fine for what it is. I mean, the space of Model X hasn't changed. So that's just some random thoughts there. Let's talk about the testing data. We run every single vehicle on Out of Spec testing in range, charging, 10%, and performance evaluations. So let's start with the range of this car and how it did for us. Now that video is not live yet. yet. It will go live at some time soon. And that was hugely disappointing. We are talking about cars that are EPA rated on the 400 to 450 mile range, being the equivalent cost and category to this vehicle right here. This is a $112,000 spec Model X. They start at basically 100, and by the time you add the frost blue paint, the 6-seat interior, and the white seats, this thing's at 112, and it's still on the base wheels, which I think you're going to want because of the range. At 70 miles an hour constant here in our East Coast sea level test, this thing did 315 miles, but keep in mind, it went almost 30 miles below zero. Most people are not going to be comfortable using that massive buffer that Tesla hides at the bottom of this pack. Twice now, I've used like 6, 7, 8, 9 kilowatt hours below 0% in this car, and you'll go to Out of Spec testing and see more of that. By the time it hit 0%, we had done like 289, 285 miles, somewhere around there, and that just feels a bit weak on the range. So then you think, okay, can you make up for it in charging performance? The answer is sort of, if you optimize it Tesla style. You've got to get in at 10% state of charge at chargers, because this battery pack weirdly doesn't charge that fast down low. Like Model 3, Y, you get in 0%. They love that. This doesn't really ramp up charging. I have the same battery in my Model S till about 10 or 11%. You'll also see that in the Eastern Edge. So you get 10% to like 35, 36% to your window at full power, 250 kilowatts, and then it dies. And you're doing under 150 kilowatts at 50% state of charge on a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is weak, considering this is supposed to be the newest, refreshed, latest generation Tesla. They're giving us 1.5C charging at 50% state of charge. Rough, real rough performance there. Okay, so then you think, all right, how about the 10% challenge? Because that does maximize kind of that charging down low. It did pretty well in our 10% challenge, about 110, 115 miles, somewhere around there, which makes this a very good road tripper. The thing is, when you're talking about the whole road trip, it's not always just about how fast the car can charge, how far it can go on a charge. It's about station location, amenities, handshake time, ease of access. And Tesla superchargers are built so close to highway off-ramps. They have the best locations, the best amenities, and of course they give this car the full power. So like you'll see in the Eastern Edge, the car does way better than the numbers on paper suggest, and it's still pretty relevant in today's sort of competitive field. But you have to optimize it Tesla style. You've got to get in and out, and you're charger hopping. And this car did the most amount of stops on the Eastern Edge out of any car, and they were just ripping it the whole way. So that's the Tesla way of doing it. Then let's talk about our performance testing. This was hugely impressive. No one is talking about how fast this Tesla Model X is. This thing was cracking off 3.7, 3.8 seconds, 0 to 60 over and over. Things run an 11.4 quarter mile. That's matching Model Y performance, the new one based off of Brooks at Drag Times testing. We'll of course get one out here to test. But this thing is basically a rocket ship, and no one talks about how quick this car is. It doesn't need to be this fast. And they still make the Plaid, which is even faster with an additional motor on the rear axle. Just absolutely incredibly quick. And I have a whole video talking about that. So that was really an impressive part of this car, was the acceleration performance. I did a 1-lap track session in this car as well. I know it's a Model X, but you got to send everything around for a lap, so stay tuned to that channel. So I think that sums up a lot of the test data that we got on it. While no particular metric is impressive on the car, there's not really one thing, one standout feature that this does that's like, wow, class leading. But the total package of how everything works is totally usable, and it's totally fine. But in a flagship product from a company that basically made electric cars viable in the modern context, should totally fine and totally usable be the words we're describing their top model? I don't think so. In here we get to the driver's view, and this is one of the best parts about the Model X. The seats are very comfortable. The steering wheel being round is great. Same steering wheel I have in my car. And you have this amazing helicopter style windshield, the glass coming all the way back up. It is still a cool experience to be in here. And you know what? Going down the road in this car, sitting in the seat, having, I think, one of the best user experiences in terms of software integration, route planning, Spotify, all the other great things that this system can do that we all know from Tesla's phone is a key, blah, 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 the list goes on. That's what makes this car so good. And that's doing all the heavy lifting for some of the problems that I'm about to tell you about. Sound system rocks. FSD 14 is incredible and nothing comes close in the Western world. And so if you want a 3-row electric SUV that pretty much drives itself, this is the only option. But you've got to live with the Model X thing, which it feels old and it's like it's due for a refresh, and we'll talk all about that. But this is the best part about Model X. You sit here, you crank up the great stereo, you hit FSD, and you're cruising. So a lot of what I'm talking about is more subjective style things. For example, the shape of the car is like an egg and to me not very attractive. And you know, we're talking about how Model X could be so much more if Tesla really wanted to make their flagship a flagship. They could put amazing suspension on this car. They could make it charge incredibly fast. And the list goes so on and so forth. But there are 6 reliability concerns that I have in just my roughly 6,000 miles with this car that are a real head scratcher. Model 3 and Model Y are Tesla's volume models, and they are bulletproof. We have done so many miles in my old 2019 Model 3 that it's just been awesome. Model Y, just a rock solid piece of equipment. And that's really the biggest issue with the Model X, is that the Model Y exists and they've made the Model Y so nice and it works. And then you get into this car and stuff just didn't work, at least for us. And I can say I've had a very similar experience with this car with my own Tesla Model S, my Palladium 2, P2 generation Model S. One of the least reliable cars I've ever purchased. And I've always been, I can get Tesla's build quality, okay, fit and finish, paint stuff. That's Colton's world on the Out of Spec detailing channel. But I'm talking real reliability issues. So let me tell you the 6 issues we had in order of them happening. The first issue we had was actually on the eastern edge, and you guys will see that in an upcoming episode. The guys were going charger to charger, driving it, and they weren't able to get over 200 kilowatt charging on the car. They would plug in, and it would kind of peak out, and then it would come down. And the charging curve was just nerfed. And they, would switch stalls. They realized it wasn't a supercharger limit, although I've ran into some supercharger limits recently. And yeah, just a weird charging bug. They did a scroll wheel reset on the steering wheel to reboot the car. Boom, the car shot back up to full power and we're good to go. A normal consumer would never know to reset their car if they were down 50 kilowatts or so from their peak charging performance. That was just a weird bug, but thankfully a reset fixed the car and it opened the charging curve back up. Then we had a suspension problem with this car. Now the Generation 3 car has a new suspension, mostly in the rear, softens up the back end of the car a bit, but there was a suspension air leak in the vehicle. And what's funny is there was never a warning that actually popped up on the Model X that was user displayed. It was actually an internal service mode warning that said, hey, we have a suspension problem with this car. And Tesla engineers told us about it. We talked to them after the Eastern Edge just to let them know how the trip went. And they said, hey, the engineers flagged a note saying that there was an air suspension problem. And I'm pretty sure they replaced the compressor and maybe even a damper on the vehicle, or an air spring, I should say. I'm not exactly sure, but there was a leak somewhere in the system and a major part was replaced. And this car actually had to go in for service during our loan with it, which is really crazy. So, okay, that's not good. We just, having an air suspension problem on a car that's relatively unchanged for the last many years is a little bit concerning. But even more concerning than that was after we finished up the Eastern Edge, we're in Key West, Florida. It's warm outside. My buddy Sky is going to drive this back up here to the Out of Spec track. No air conditioning. Wouldn't work at all. Then it was intermittent. And it turns out that the entire heat pump system, I think, had to get replaced. But we essentially drove this car for 1,500 miles with no AC. I actually took on that drive as well on the last leg, and we were sweating in the car with the sun beating on us in the windshield. So, you know, crazy to me that this HVAC system, the heat pump with their great technology of heat scavenging and octovalve and super manifold and all these great things, failed on this car. Now, I have not experienced that in my Tesla Model S, which uses the very similar or almost identical heat pump and thermal system. So it's a one-off fluke, let's just say. But again, that's a problem we experienced with our time with this car, and that's fairly unacceptable. Then the list sadly continues, and I wonder if I can get it to do this right now. This is a minor problem, but it's a problem I had even on my Model S. I'm going to pop the front trunk, and then you go around to open the front trunk, and it's still latched. Like, the latch doesn't release. I've actually had to have my Model S adjusted for this twice, and that's an older car. So what you have to do is then go back in the car, cycle the latch one more time, and hopefully now it will open. And there we go, and a leaf flies out. Again, annoying, concerning, yes, because this is a brand new Tesla press car that should be prepped and gone through. I mean, that's what I would expect, is to have a representative vehicle to make videos on for you guys. And well, the frunk doesn't work, but it doesn't stop there, because I've actually had 2 major driver assistance issues. Not talking about the software of FSD, that's a separate video talking about its trajectory and path. This is on some weird software right now that is very indecisive about lane changes on the highway, but we won't get into that. I had 2 actual faults with the driver assistance system on this car. The first is the front camera kept not working, and it didn't work for almost a week at one point, and it required me to go into service mode on the vehicle and reset all the cameras, and it would bring it back sometimes and it wouldn't sometimes, and I don't know, that wouldn't work. And right now it is working, but it did not work for a long period of time. And what's weird is FSD still works even if the front camera doesn't. It pops up with a little warning, but it still does work. But sometimes autopilot, FSD, cruise control wouldn't work at all. And this is a problem I've had in my Model S, and this is a problem others have commented about having in Model S and X as well. Sometimes the driver assistance computer just fails to wake up or is not available, and you've got to go back into service mode, go into the autopilot settings, and reset DAS, driver assistance system. That reboots the entire self-driving function of the vehicle, and then it comes back and it works fine. But I had to do that at least 3 times in my 6,000 miles with this car, and that's just me. I'm sure the other guys had to do some as well. And that's something I run into, again, on my Model S, which is a hardware 3 car. This is a hardware 4 car. You would not expect those problems to transfer through, but they did. So those are like the 6 main problems that I've had with this car. But then there's some other little stuff that I wouldn't consider to be too bad, but there's some intermittent vibrations in the interior, just stuff you get with Model X. It just doesn't feel as well screwed together, as thought out as some of its competition. And drivetrain vibrations. They're known for half shaft vibrations. This car is not experiencing any of that in terms of the half shaft rumble. However, there is some resonance under medium acceleration on the front end that I think is, I've experienced in every Model X. It's kind of there, but you can just tell that the geometry of whatever's happening on the front end was designed for Model S and then adapted for the Model X. And it just feels a little bit odd and stressy, and there's some harmonics going on up there that transfer to the rest of the vehicle, and it just feels a bit weird. No one will ever notice it. That's just a Kyle thing, but it drives me insane. So in the context of that, we are all talking about the Lucid Gravity and the software problems we had with that car and how buggy it was. And I'm over here saying to the rest of our crew here, hey guys, don't forget this car had major issues as well, and it's almost 10 years old, and they've just had all this time to refine this package, and it feels just as buggy as a brand new car. Now, a lot of it is hardware issues, some of it is software issues, but it just wasn't the fully dialed in experience that you would expect from Tesla, especially that their cheaper models give you. It almost feels like you're paying more for a little bit more comfort, but a lot more headache, at least in the impression of this car. So that about sums up my feelings on the 2025 Tesla Model X. It's quite expensive. It's $112,000 as spec, $100,000 starting, and you really are not getting $100,000 worth of hardware. What you are getting are some of the best software, app experience, home integration, all of that Tesla nails. But you can get that entire experience in a Tesla Model Y that costs half as much as this car, and it is certainly not half as comfortable. The new Tesla Model Y refresh is an amazing car. Now, I actually have a Tesla Model Y Standard and Model 3 Standard here at the office that I'll be making some more videos on for you guys. So shout out to Tesla for sending us so many cars to make videos of. I love this program where they're supporting us and other content creators to share honest impressions of the vehicles with you. Hopefully you can tell I'm saying what I need to say about their cars, just like we do with every other manufacturer. So it's great to see them supporting independent auto media. However, the Model Y is the clear buy over this car. Absolutely the clear buy over this car. In terms of capacity, just this drove me crazy. When I did the range test on this Model X, from 100% to when I hit 0%, I had used 86 kilowatt hours. Now this is a fresh, brand new car. It's healthy. This thing's only got 6,500 miles on it. I used like 86.7 kilowatt hours. That is pretty much the identical capacity to a Model Y performance with the new battery in it. So it's like, what are you getting with this? It's like, yeah, no one's going to go below 0. And of course I did and ran it to dead for the test because that's what we do. But it's just, there's not much substance going with this. You get the doors, you get a little bit more space. But my recommendation is if you're thinking about buying a Model X, think again and buy a Model Y. I think that's a better product at a much more reasonable price and more reliable based off of my own experience. I'm curious to see if other new Model S or X owners can chime in on that. So it's not to say that our time with the Model X has been disappointing, but I just always come back to this being my least favorite Tesla. Dynamically, it's so much worse than even Cybertruck on track. You'll see that, which is really crazy that their pickup truck handles better than their 3-row SUV. That's a much smaller and nimbler platform. And yeah, just feels old, outdated, and it's time for a refresh. So let's say if we could ask Tesla of one thing, make a proper 3-row damn SUV. Look at what everyone else is making. Vistic, EX90, Gravity, Escalade. Make it big, make it family friendly, put a huge ass battery in there, make it charge like a monster. Honestly, just put the Cybertruck battery in it, 124 kilowatt hours, that'll be fine. And do that, because this just isn't working anymore. Thanks for watching. See you in another one again soon. Bye-bye.